Hi everybody, it's Leslie here. Hopefully you can't hear too much of the plane noise in the background. I've got the door to my office open and I thought I'd have a go at using up some of my strips from my strips jar today. So this is lots and lots of leftover patterned paper offcuts, which are mainly from me making boxes. And there's some lovely Tilda ones in here, as well as some that are actually, I think these ones are all from pads from the works and places like that. But I thought I'd have a go at using some of it up. So I thought I'd do some eclipse cards. So I've got these two dies out of my stash. This is how I store mine. I have a magnet on the back and then I cut it out so you can see it right way around on the front. This happy birthday one, this one's from the works. And this thank you one, this one is the Time for Tea Designs thank you die. So I've got these two. I thought happy birthday and thank you, cards that we all need all the time. So let's get started. I'm going to need some double-sided tape, or double-sided. So here's my double-sided sheets box, and I've got loads that I managed to get from a lady that was selling off all of her craft stuff. So these are from when Lakeland in the UK used to do double-sided, and in fact when they used to do craft things, which they've not done for quite some years now, I don't think. And I think these are going to be nice and thin enough, so I'm going to use these ones. I've got all these which I think look very similar to these. I'm just going to try and see if these are thinner. But yeah, these came from Facebook. I think these are quite thick actually. These all came from Facebook Marketplace. I thought it would be easier using these double-sided rather than stick it on paper. So let's have a go and see if I can get this front backing off and leave myself something to hold onto. And I'm just going to start sticking my strip sock. Yeah, it's still nice and sticky. I have had things off Facebook Marketplace before where, I don't think I'll take the whole thing off to start with, where the sticky isn't sticky any longer, especially double-sided tape. So I'm going to grab some of these strips, which I know are all nice Tilda ones. And I think I've got two different paper pads from Tilda, yeah. So I'm going to try and grab my strips out my jar and separate out. There's some that are more red based. Let's go with the Tilda ones. Pick which side we're going to use. And I'm just going to go for a diagonal just to be interesting. I could probably have got more out of that one, couldn't I? And these are, let's see what will look nice next to it. That's going to be quite patterned, so let's go with this one. And I'm just going to put them up to each other, and then I'm going to end up with completely new looking patterned paper, hopefully. And let me get some of my scissors, and let's flip it over and chop some of these off so that we can use them. I really hope that I'm going to be able to die cut through this. We will find out, I'm sure. Right, so my idea was, I think it looks like it should be that way up for some reason, probably because the houses then look the right way up. So my idea was then to cut the thank you out of the middle, and that will have sticky on the back, so we can use it as on top of layers. Yeah, that seems like a plan to me. So I'm just going to get some low tack tape just to check. This is, that's what, 5.5 just under 6 inches, 5.5 that way, 6 that way. Okay. So this will go as a nice square onto a 6x6 card with a border around it, I think. Now we will see if it cuts through the sticky. Made good noises. Let's have a look. Yeah, it looks like if it's not cut through anything, it looks like the only thing that's not cut through is the release paper, which is not a bad thing. So, cutting machine out of the way for a minute and let's have a look. Yeah, that definitely looks like it's cut. And when you peel things off, always pull it right back on itself like this, and it stands less chance of ripping your paper that way. So hopefully you can see, if I get it in the light right, yeah, that has cut through, and then these will be sticky back letters, which they are. So we're going to leave that in there for now, and let's cut out from my white scraps box. These are quite thin, so I might need to do quite a few layers of these, and I'm not going to waste my double-sided sticky on the back of these because they're quite big letters. I think I'll be able to maybe don't drop everything. I think I'll be able to stick these together okay myself. So let's cut out a good 3 or 4 layers. Okay, so now we're just going to sort all these out, stick them all together. Okay, and just to show you, so where I've got like little tiny pieces missing, which was off the edge of my card, it doesn't matter because that's going to be right at the bottom, inlaid into this. So it really doesn't matter if your bottom layer or even your bottom 2 layers have got a tiny piece missing off, like this T has. So we're ready to do the actual die cut inlay part now. We've got our stacks of letters and we've got our sticky ones. So these are already sticky. All we need to do is stack them on top of the ones we've got cut out. And you just need to be careful that these have only got the thin layer of sticky on the back. So any little pieces that cross between the pattern papers, they might fold slightly. So I'm just being careful, peeling these up, making sure I get the sticky. And making sure, like especially around these little bits, like on the H down the bottom, that we get a little piece at the bottom and that bit stays intact, which it has now. And anything that you can flip over, because this H looks symmetrical, but actually it isn't, which I just found out when I was gluing them together. It does have a way up. And I've managed to get a tiny bit of paper where I don't want it because I stuck it the wrong way up. The central bar piece isn't actually quite in the middle, which I didn't realise. I think it's nearer the top than the bottom so that it lines up with, to make sure everything's on. So the central bar here is higher up. So if you stick it upside down, it's obviously not going to work. So let's push that piece down. Okay, so it's cut through the backing paper just slightly there. And I want to keep hold of the centre of my letter A. So let me just find... So just so I can push that back down. And it's doesn't want to come up. It doesn't want to separate, so we might have to pull it up and then put it back. Yeah, it's not quite cut through. It's cut through everything but the sticky backing, I think. So let me just grab my craft knife and I'm just going to run it round the edge with it. Just, I'm glad I kept that extra bit of sticky back in there. And just make sure it's gone through. Yeah, and then we can lift that out separately and pop it up there out of the way. Oh, I've trimmed ever so slightly off the edge, but it doesn't matter because it's being die cut and that tiny little piece there doesn't matter. So it had cut through everything except the sticky bit around the centre of the A. It'd gone through all the layers of pattern paper. It'd gone through the layers of pattern paper, just hadn't quite gone through the sticky. I've not quite glued the bottom layers very well lined up, so I'm just going to trim. I'm not trimming the top layer, I'm only trimming the bottom layers. And it was sticking out slightly. It's one of those things that probably only I would notice once it was made. It's these tiny, tiny pieces I'm trimming off. I've just got these scalloped edge ones. So they're scalloped edge on the front, but not the back. And I'll be honest, I don't know what brand they are. So I'm thinking, yeah, that might look quite pretty on there. So let me grab a die to cut this down. I've got a scalloped square, but I think that might just be a bit too small. And this is the largest scalloped square I've got. And I think it might be a bit too small. And we lose all this lovely pattern. So I think I'm going to find a square. So most of my layering shapes, I've got them on my magnet board. So that would be, I think, too big. So yeah, that would be too big for the scallops. That's the largest one I've got. Yeah, I think this one might be more like it. Yeah, let's try that. I can always go smaller if I decide it doesn't look great. So let's decide where this is going to go. I'm actually going to stick it that way around just so that, because the tape I've already got on there is not going to stick on the release paper. This, with square dies, it's always best, or rectangular, it's always best to get them ever so slightly on a diagonal if you can, but I don't think I can quite get this one on a diagonal because it's just a little bit too big. I've just about got it slightly on a diagonal, so let's run it through. And the idea behind getting it on the diagonal is just so that you don't have your straight edge hitting the roller all in one go and it having to cut all that. It means that you get a more even pressure just because it hits it at a slightly different rate. And again, I'm pretty certain that's gone through everything except the release paper, which is exactly what we want. Yeah, because this is all sticky back. I don't have to worry about glue or anything on it. And the back's quite pretty. Okay, so let's get that. This is the only problem. I think this is a one chance to stick. Fortunately, I think I've done not too badly. It's a bit over there, isn't it? Let's see if I can peel it off or not. I have a feeling this really is the sticky stuff. Yeah, that's not going to come off. So we're going to live with it. It's slightly too far this way. I could maybe put a ribbon down this side, which would take your eye away from that fact, but that's the only disadvantage of everything being sticky back. Yeah, and I like it that way up. So all we need to do now is pop glue in and drop our letters back in, and as you can see, they're going to stick up quite nicely in their little slots. Just going to put something heavy on it for a minute. These are just terrazzo mats that I got in TK Maxx, so they're just supposed to be table mats. And there we go. I'd say that was a successful use of all this scrap. Yeah, I'm going to leave that on there to dry. And I think we might have a go at doing one with the other die, which is the Happy Birthday die. So I think, yeah, it's a bit smaller, so I think I'm going to go with this double-sided, which is one of the old Lakeland ones. There's the panel. Again, I don't know why, but I feel like it needs to go that way up. And let's get the Happy Birthday die. This one is from the Make and Create stuff, which is in the works. Yeah, and I thought it might be, yes. And my double-sided this time is just very slightly taller than this A6 card blank that I've got. So, right, so let's kind of, yeah, it's gone all the way through this time, but it doesn't matter desperately, because I want to, it's making sure I don't rip the paper as this comes off. Make sure we save my little dish. Get rid of the little bits that I don't want. Make sure any of these little pieces, I've got them in my dish, because the interesting bit will get in this stuck down, I think, and making sure all these bits are in the right places. So everything's either still in the die at the moment, or in the die cut, stuck to the paper, or in my little dish. So let's just sit that to one side while we cut this out from some scraps. Okay, so now I've got that together, let's make sure I've no glue anywhere, because this is going to be the back of my card. Okay, I think to make sure that we get this stuck down in the right place, because we know that it rips if you don't do it, I think I'm going to do it with that sat in there like that. So that will just hold all these long wiggly bits in the right place. So there's no glue on this at the moment. I haven't got my top piece on it either. So just so that we end up with this laid on it properly. And this is just, it's about the right width. Yeah, we're the right width, but it's just slightly too tall. So just let the tape spin. I think what we'll do is use one of, sorry if my camera wobbles, I'm just going to use my Tim Holtz stamping platform just for the corner, because you can take the lid completely off this particular stamping platform. So what I'm going to do, don't need sticky mat or anything in there. Oh, that's my, nearly just knocked over my jar. I'm going to pop that right in that bottom corner, so that when I stick this down, let's check that it looks like it's all going to line up. Yeah, I can always trim the edge of the card, or I could do it with it this way up and do this upside down and put it into that corner, which I think would be better. And trim off at the bottom, I think. Yeah, let's do it that way. So here's the trick, right? So let's get our release paper off. Make sure we get it off all these little pieces. Yeah. Now, I could do it a bit at a time. Let's try it that way. So what I'm going to do is get that in the bottom corner. Make sure you're pushed into the bottom corner, you're in square, and then as I do it, make sure I get the release paper for those little pieces and that they're laying in the right place before we push anything down. So yeah, that worked not badly, because that means that if that one can sit in there, yeah, I'm happy with that. And how have we done? Pretty good. That's pretty square on all of the edges, with, as I suspected, just this bottom edge to trim off. So let's get my platform out of the way, don't need that anymore. Open up the card and just trim this sticky edge off before we get anything stuck to it. The reason that I've not stuck this in yet is because I've got all these little pieces I need to piece back in, and I think it'll be easier to lift them out of that to make sure they're all going in the right place. So I know this is off the letter D. So you could do a 2 for 1 and leave that at that and use this on another card. But I think I'm going to go with my original idea. I'm just going to cut, I think, in one more layer in a thicker card. And then I'll stick it back one and go on top. Just found, we'll push it through in a sec. I've missed putting in, if you can see, the tiny little bit from that hole there. I've missed putting that on the card. So what we'll do is we'll stick this together and then we'll push it through in a minute once we put this on the card. So yeah, I think I'll try and push that tiny piece there through. Yeah, that's gonna work. Push it through before we stick this down. Yeah, there it is. That was the one little piece that we'd missed. So now all we need to do is pop our glue. Put that on there to dry. Now, what do you think? Should we have some laying on this? I think we can get away with a few pearls or something. What do we think? I think I've got some tiny little flower shaped sequins in here. And flower shaped, these are almost like tiny little fabric flower shaped things, but they've got the right pink tones on them. So I think I should get a sequin stuck. I'm going to pop a few of these on. I don't know if they're catching in the light. Oh, there you go. There you can see. So you've got the shadow. There you go. You can see perfectly the shadow effect of the inlay technique. And that's why they call them eclipse, because it's like a shadow, which when you get an eclipse, it's the shadow on the sun. and I've made that one tenfold. And I will probably find just one of my thank you stamps to stamp the inside and just stamp a simple thank you on the inside. So that's that one finished. Now this one should be dry. So the glue is going to dry clear, but again you can see and get the right angle, the nice shadow effect that you get from the eclipse technique. And again, I'll find one of my nice happy birthdays to do on the inside. So that's those two. I think I'm going to go and use some more scraps up, do them exactly the same way. And if I do some more, I'll add them at the end so you can see what else I used up. So I thought I'd just quickly show you how many cards I got out of all those scraps. So this is all I've got left of all those loads and loads of scraps of Tilda paper. So I'm happy. I'm going to just chuck this up now. So most of it's tiny little pieces. There's a couple of slightly bigger pieces, but I've decided that's it. I'm not going to try and get any more out of that. So that's all I've got left of those dozens of strips. So let's show you the cards I managed to get out of them. So this is the one you'd already seen me making, and exactly the same idea but with the pinks and turquoises. And another one, exactly the same idea. It looks better in real life. I think you can see the die cut inlay effect. I'm trying to get the shadow in the right place so you can see it, but yeah, it looks better in real life. You can there you can see it. So yeah, that's with the reds and turquoise. And then I think you'd already seen maybe this one, the happy birthday. There we go, you can see the eclipse. There's same card, different colours. Again, same card, slightly different. So that's 3 6x6, 3 A6, and then as a little bonus, because I had shorter pieces left, so I chopped some smaller pieces, and I decided not to do eclipse technique. I got one that's a little tiny size card, so I think this is, yeah, if that's A6, that's a 7-ish size. And then I got 2 little 4x4s. So these were just using up the shorter pieces. I didn't have anything long enough to span, so I used up all the little shorter pieces. So I got 3 little mini bonus cards, and I just wanted to show you this tiny card. I didn't make it this size. This is a really old set from one of my kids' craft clubs. My kids are 17 and a half and just turned 15. So they're not really into flower fairies right now, and these little cards and envelopes, so here we go, there's a little tiny envelope to fit this tiny little card. These cards and envelopes must have come in one of my kids' craft sets, and I've just stuck them in the drawer because they've not used them all. So I'm even trying to use up my tiny little odd-sized cards with my scraps cards, and I actually think these are really effective. So I've got a nice pile of thank you cards. These are just little pre-made 4x4 inches cards. So I've got 6 thank you cards, 3 happy birthday cards, and because I had a tiny piece of sticky back that I'd cut out at the same size and I didn't have enough pieces to do it, I just grabbed some more bits out my scraps jar, and that's the bits that I've got left from that, which I probably won't keep either because they're just tiny pieces and lots of them have got score lines on. So I've actually ended up with 7 just because I already had it chopped out for the same size of sticky back plastic. Sticky back, double-sided. We're not on Blue Peter. So there you go. That was all the cards that I got from the Tilda strips that I had just sitting in my scraps drawer. I will see you again soon with another crafty video. Bye.